Hello, I'm Dr. Benway. That is my name, and I'm sticking with it. And this is something I've been wanting to do for a little while, and it's sort of a record review thing, off the cuff, kind of unscripted kind of thing. Other stuff I'm doing is scripted. Um, and just to talk about some albums and movies and such that I enjoy. Today we're going to be talking about a compilation album by the Beach Boys entitled Endless Summer from the year 1970, 1970 something. Endless Summer is a very interesting compilation in the band's history, which I am not an expert at all, but a aficionado of, if you will. Let that word ring through your head for just a second. Aficionado. See that? You feel the way that word rings through your head? Aficionado. Yeah, that's a good word. Um, Endless Summer is really interesting. I'm going to put it right over here. Endless Summer is really interesting because it was kind of like a double-edged sword for the Beach Boys, where it gave them a new audience and a lot of new people coming in, and on the other hand, it hampered their creativity. So what happened was that they were on this really long, like, creative spark, this kind of like trying to prove themselves to the rock elite, the musical elite, the idea, the music publications, whatever you want to call them, the trying to prove themselves as legitimate artists, and that resulted in some of their best work, Sunflower, um, Surf's Up, Holland, great albums. Um, but it didn't necessarily transcribe into hits. Um, those albums, although they're masterpieces and incredible, they didn't have hits. And a band without hits is not much of a band at all. So the they were kind of coming off this creative streak, working on their next stuff, and then a little movie called American Graffiti came out, directed by George Lucas, and it featured the Beach Boys songs pretty heavily. It takes place in 1961 or 62, I believe, right before the Vietnam thing explodes, And it's a great movie. It's one of my favorites, and it features the Beach Boys heavily, and it features a Beach Boys song in the finale of the film. Probably one of the most memorable parts of the film is features their song "All Summer Long." It's a little anachronistic because that song came out in 1964, but whatever. Something just popped up on my screen. Isn't that incredible? Okay. But anyway, so that movie came out. It was really popular. It was a major movie. And Capitol Records, who owned everything up to their album Friends, I believe. I think they actually owned everything up till 2020. Um, so Capitol Records, they owned the Beach Boys music, and the Beach Boys had very little control over that. Their father Murray sold the most of Brian's early catalog in the early 70s, I believe. So Capitol Records, put together a compilation of Beach Boys hits from the early to mid 60s, and they called it Endless Summer. And it's got very, very, almost psychedelic album cover to me. I've always wondered about this album cover. It's very, like, it reminds me a lot of the Smiley Smile album cover, which is odd because this is nowhere near psychedelic territory. Um, this is not just that was just a different album from a different time, coming out all pasty white. I'm pasty white. Jesus Christ. um, but it does remind me of the Smiley Smile album cover a lot. Probably because of this vegetation here. But it's a really good album cover. I don't think it really gets its due. Um, Maybe it gets its due, but I don't think a lot of people talk about it necessarily. Here's the full. There we go. Hope that got in. So you have all the band members. You have this is gonna be difficult. You have Brian, Mike, and Al. That's it's a little weird to not have like just to have one of the Wilson brothers on the front of the record, in front of the record cover. But on the back you have Dennis. Over here's Carl. So you do have all three Wilson brothers on the album cover. And then in the middle, this has always confused me. Is this supposed to be Dennis again? Let's get that. Hello. Is this supposed to be Dennis again? Because it looks like Dennis. He's a balloon salesman. This album cover is really weird to me. It's a very like mid 1970s. I want to associate it with like Rolling Stone or like Mad Magazine, sort of like I I dare call Mad Magazine a countercultural publication, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Um, like it's very um not cynical, but just very striking. Um, and it's just really interesting. The compilation illustrations were done by Keith McConnell, and if that is the same person that did the illustrations on the sequel compilation, Spirit of America, Jesus, I can't remember the goddamn name, Spirit of America, he was an army, a military man who did drawing for the government, I believe. I remember I read an article about this, but it was a while ago, so I don't remember exactly what was going on. But he was with the armed forces, and he did illustrations, and I think he might have even done something for Rolling Stone. But do not quote me on that because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. This show is going to be very like fact checked, if you will. People I don't know if anyone's gonna watch it, but if anyone watches it and you're like the kind of person that's like, well, that's not true, go ahead and tell me how I fucked up, because I I read a lot. I do swallow a lot of information. That's a weird way of saying that. I take in a lot of information, but it's all running around in my head. It's like a fucking swirly, it's like a toilet going down. Just, it's a goddamn hurricane. Okay, it is the version of purgatory that I find most visually compelling, which is just being spun around and a void for eternity. Now we get off track. I want to talk about the track list on this album. If I can ever get my brain together, I will talk about this goddamn track list. Um, so obviously it starts with Surf and Safari, which was their first big hit, their first song. Not their first song, but their first hit, at least in California. Um, then you go right to Surfer Girl, which is a ballad from the album Surfer Girl, and it is one of my favorite Beach Boys ballads. Surfer Girl, the album, I'll probably eventually talk about it, is really good. Like, just even like it is the best of the David Marks era albums, in my opinion. I don't know if that's a controversial opinion. I don't think it is. But it is the best of the David Marks era record albums. It's so good. All the really good tracks are so good, and the filler tracks are fine. But man, Surfer Girl's really good. Catch a Wave, another good song. I mean, all these songs too, and it's incredible to me. I'm gonna go off track again and say that it is incredible to me that the Beach Boys music is just part of the American canon at this point, in the way that John Philip Sousa and Hank Williams are, uh, just part of like, Surf and Safari is emblematic to American music in the same way that Stars and Stripes Forever is, and that's a generalization, but it is incredible. Just like I grew up with boomer parents, um, and so I heard a lot of this music growing up. But even like if I didn't, I still would have probably heard it because it's just become so part of the culture. 1 second. This episode is sponsored by water. Sponsored by water. Um, you know, it's just become part of like American iconography. Um, I mispronounce words all the time, so get ready for that. Um, and I do this thing. I mispronounce the word, and then I laugh at myself for mispronouncing it. I don't need anyone else. I'm an entertainment machine for myself. Let's get back to this. The Warmth of the Sun was written, I think, just by Mike, which is kind of incredible because that's a really great song. No, no offense to Mike Love, um, some offense to Mike Love, but The Warmth of the Sun is a really great song. It was written, I remember reading it was written like right after Kennedy was shot, so it's got this really sort of like takes on a new meaning when you learn about that. It's a beautiful song, just one of their best. Surfin' USA, the song that famously got them sued by Chuck Berry. It's in. I don't think they were sued by Chuck Berry. They might have been down the line, but not at first. Everybody was stealing from Chuck Berry, um, and everybody was stealing from everybody back then. Basically, it was rock and roll was one big stealing fest. Sorry about that. Rock and roll back then was one big stealing fest. Everything was up for grabs. Licensing really wasn't, you know, that strict at that point. You know, everything was being shared around, and the best way to say it. Something is up with this lighting, and this is very unprofessional, I should say. Um, I am recording this off of my shitty laptop uh, camera. Hello, and it is not professional quality, but you know, hey, what the hell? So Surfing USA is a song that got them in hot water. Basically, it's just a rewrite of Sweet Little 16. Um, if I were to be asked which song I'd rather listen to for the rest of my life, interesting question that I just proposed to myself. Um, I'd probably say Surfing USA, honestly. Sweet Little 16 is fine, but Surfing USA has got the harmonies, and that's what I love. So side two starts with "Be True to Your School." This is honestly one of my lesser favorite Beach Boy songs. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just Beach Boys were always kind of walking the line between being earnest and preppy, and I have nothing wrong with people who are preppy. You know, I have nothing wrong with like school spirit, but it's not necessarily something I really uh, take much heed into, especially college spirit. It doesn't make any sense. I was paying for to go here, and I'm so proud that I'm going here. That doesn't make sense to me. Nothing wrong if with you if you should do, but just be true to your school isn't very good. Um, in my opinion, it's fine. You know, it is a good early Beach Boys song, but not one of my favorites. Then you have Little Do Scoop, which is one of the big songs from that point. I have a Mandela effect about Little Do Scoop, and it's something I have not really talked about anywhere. I remember there being like a ding ding after the Little Do Scoop was something go, the Little Do Scoop, and I don't know where that came from. More accurately, like ding ding, and I don't know where that came from. I'm wondering if I ever heard a cover as a child, um, some sort of like Wiggles cover, perhaps. I have yet to look it up, but I remember there being a in Little Do Scoop, and it's funny that like going back, and I didn't think about this for years, and then I was listening to the song the other day. I was like, the other day, like a year ago, and I was like, holy shit, where's the ding ding? Where is the ding ding? Where is the ding ding? The Night in 11. In My Room is one of their best songs of this era. Just a really great ballad. Beach Boys really knew how to do a ballad at this point. Brian Wilson and company really knew how to capture the teenage spirit, the idea of like teenage America. So many other artists of this era, of the early rock and roll era, they were, appealing to teenagers, but they were like 35. It's like, the Beach Boys were young, there were a lot of teen stars, and they did that. And I mean, the annals of rock history are littered with the teen idols of the 1950s and 60s. Um, but something about the Beach Boys, maybe it's because they were writing their own stuff. You know, they elevate a little higher than a Ricky Nelson. I like Ricky Nelson, but they elevate just a little higher than Ricky Nelson because Brian Wilson was writing in these lyrics, and they just capture yearning a lot of the time. Yearning is a really good way of saying it. Shut Down is a car song. It's fine. I'm not too big on the car songs necessarily. I like them. I mean, they're fun to listen to in the car, but like on a record at home, I'm like, okay, well, you know, Fun, Fun, Fun is a great song. It's kind of like become one of their songs in the way that like Helping Rhonda is. Like this Surf and Safari and like I Get Around, those are their songs. Like those are the songs that they're going to be playing till they die, basically. And for good reason. Fun 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 is a really good song. It's simple. It's very simple. It's just about blowing off. Studying. More about that teen America. Excuse me for a second. Appealing to that teen spirit. Um, and I don't think any other artist did it better than the Beach Boys at this point. Fun, Fun, Fun's great. It's just a lot of fun, fun, fun. I Get Around is probably the most famous Beach Boys song of this era. For good reason. It's a really great song. Um, just the word iconic comes to mind. You know, it it was one of the first Beach Boys songs that I started listening to I started getting into music, and I was like, this is really good in like a way that like I never noticed before. The Girls on the Beach is a really great song. It's just another ballad, which I think the Beach Boys did do fantastically. Um, when it's just the vocals, like the opening of The Girls on the Beaches, where it's just them harmonizing together, doing that four freshmen type thing. It's excellent. It's just perfect. Wendy's good. I like Wendy a lot too. Um, I should say we're on side three, by the way. Wendy is a good song. It's another one of those sort of teen yearning things, where everything is the end of the world. The what the hell? Everything is the end of the world at that age. Um, Let Him Run Wild. Jesus Christ, I butchered that. Let Him Run Wild is another good song. That's from Summer Days, Summer Nights. Now we're getting into like the more like studio-y kind of Beach Boys songs. That's the best way to say it. Like the great thing about listening to Beach Boys discography all the way through is that you hear Brian Wilson mature as a producer and a songwriter and a lyricist and a vocalist. And you hear him mature, and once you get to Summer Days, Summer Nights, and Today, which is one of their best albums, Beach Boys Today is right behind like Pet Sounds for me. No, it's Sunflower Pet Sounds Today. Third choice, still very good. But once you get to that, it's like, okay, this person knows what they're doing. This person has mastered their craft in the studio, and they know what they're doing. And Let 'Em Run Wild is great. It's just a great song about you know, noticing someone's not being treated well and saying I could let him do what he does. He'll fuck himself up eventually. Don't Worry Baby was written to be the sequel to the Ronettes' Be My Baby, which I don't see them doing. Probably the one of the only things that like Phil Spector did that I can kind of agree with is to turn down Don't Worry Baby. It would have been really interesting to hear the Ronettes do it, but I they must have like had different lyrics for the Beach Boys version or something because I don't see the Ronettes singing about street racing. It'd be interesting and it'd be really cool, but I don't see it happening. Um, It is interesting. Don't Worry Baby is a really great song, probably their best ballad of that time. Um, and it's really hard to describe what's so good about it because it's it's hard to describe. It really is, and I know that makes me look stupid. Like it's, but screw it, whatever. Um, yeah, Don't Worry Baby is just a really great song, and the more I listen to it, the more I like it. California Girls was another big hit. I think written in like 5 minutes. Um, and that, I mean, all the great hit songs were written in like 5 minutes. Um, it's very simple. It's probably their last like simple hit in that kind of sense, where it's like they had stopped singing about surfing for a while by then. I think by like 3 years they were done singing about surfing. Their last surfing song, they were still at the beach. They weren't surfing. Surfing was kind of dying out as a fad. But they were still able to like Cars and Girls are always going to be um, uh, uh, cars and girls are always going to be bankable as long as there are cars and as long as there are girls. It's going to be bankable to sing songs combining those two very original elements. "Girl Don't Tell Me" is another good song. That was, I think, Carl's first vocal lead on any Beach Boys song, which is incredible because and within the next year, he would be singing some of their best songs of all time. Carl is the band's best vocalist, in my opinion. I don't even think that's like an unpopular opinion. I just think that's a widely accepted opinion. Carl was fantastic, even well into his cancer diagnosis in the 90s. I think he had lung cancer. He still sounded fantastic, just that late in life. He only died when he was like 58, but still, to sound that good still is really something. "Help Me Rhonda," this is the version, I remember this. This is the version from Beach Boys Today, which is a little different. Features a harmonica mostly, and it's fine. But they did update it for the album Summer Days, Summer Nights, which is the version that you know. Um, this it's fine. There's a thing with compilations to me, and I like to call it like the monkey's paw effect or something. Um, where there's always something wrong. There's always something just a little messy, you know. It's like REM's. I don't. Is it eponymous? No, it can't be eponymous. Whatever. Dead Letter Off. No, Dead Letter Off is the B-side compilation. I think it's eponymous. Is the early greatest hits compilation. It's got that weird version of Radio Free Europe, and it's like, yes, this is good for like archival purposes, but I want the hit. I want the hit one. And so this they every compilation album does this. There is no perfect compilation for any artist. There always there's always going to be a missing song or something. They're like, why was this included? It's just always going to be that way. Um, and complaining about it does absolutely no good. So I'm going to stop. "You're So Good to Me" is a great song. I was like obsessed with that song last year. I love it because it's one of two Beach Boys songs. Um, when the other one I cannot remember right now for the life of me. I'm gonna look like a goddamn idiot. But it's a song about being shocked that someone still loves you because you treat them like shit, which I think is really interesting. Like it is the lyrics are basically like I treat you like garbage and you still you still you're so good to me. I was gonna say you still believe me, but that's from Pet Sounds. And it's really good and it's just got that like that big that kind of that that kind of that kind of stuff. And it's just really good and it's just scratches the brain itch, I guess. It scratches your brain itch. Last track on the album was the last track in the American Graffiti movie. And that's all summer long. Um, I it was I think it was like kind of like deep cut until American Graffiti. It still kind of is. It went through that kind of phase. But all summer long is really good. It's about it's a perfect song to end American Graffiti on, even if it's anachronistic. I don't care, um, because it's sort of reminiscing on um, the summer, you know. And in American Graffiti, it represents the end of youth. You know, the American Graffiti has, spoilers, one of my favorite endings of all time, um, where it has that song playing, and it's that fade. I can't remember. I think it's just on the airplane that Ron Howard gets on, and it's just like and then it comes up with text, and it's like everyone you knew and loved in this movie either died in Vietnam or is working at a dead-end job, and that's just like that slap in the face of reality after such a romanticized affair that it's like, oh yeah, reality, like Vietnam. Not to talk too much about American Graffiti, I would like to talk about it eventually. um, Vietnam hangs over that movie like a big dark cloud, like it has a sense of like formidable doom to it. It has this sort of feeling of doom because it's like this is their last summer, they're going to college, and they're going to be going to war soon. It's a very good chance that they're going to be going to war soon. And that's really good. And All Summer Long is the perfect song to end that movie on. It's the perfect song to end this compilation on because it was the big hit at that point. And it just it's a good song. It's a good song. So let's look inside here because there are a little things. So this compilation was done by Michael R. Ross, art direction Roy Kohara, illustrations Keith McConnell, and it was from the year 1974. I was going to say 1974, but I thought I was wrong. But I was right, as usual. I'm always right. Look at me, I am always right. I know what I'm doing. That's all, all summer long. That's Endless Summer, the Beach Boys compilation from 1974. Um, what happened after its release was the fans increased, and they wanted to hear the songs from this album and less of the songs from the current stuff. And so that is sort of I got a scab. That is sort of the turning point where the Beach Boys, I was about to say Bee Gees, the Beach Boys became an oldies group 50 years ago. Yikes. They it's been 50 years being an oldies group. 50 years as an oldies group, touring, singing songs that they recorded over a stretch of 6 years. It's kind of incredible. Um, so yeah, that is Endless Summer. Now I just want to talk about real quick about this isn't a sponsorship thing. I know that in YouTube videos they go, let me talk to you real quick about goddamn cheese. Have you ever had cheese? It's great. No, I'm not gonna advertise anything right now. I just want to talk about cover my face. I want to talk about what I want to do. Talk about what I want to do with this channel. Sorry for all the cuts on this. I want to do some more stuff like this. So if you did enjoy this, if that's possible, give it a like. If you want to subscribe, go ahead. I'm not forcing you to do anything. Honestly, this is just a little vanity project of mine, something I'm going to be doing in my spare time. Um, Thanks for watching. If you've gotten this far, obviously I think that goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway because I appreciate you. I'm gonna just do my Jimmy Carter and say I appreciate you very much. Uh, but I do appreciate it a lot, and yeah. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do some movie type reviews on other things, and if you like it, stick around for more. Thank you for watching.